We all are hopeful of living in a world where our differences do not give rise to resentments, but rather ignite the humbleness to learn from a different perspective. A future where we no longer feel ashamed or disappointed in sharing our opinions, but rather feel very proud of it. Now, in order to do this, we need a very crucial element in our society. After all, aren't we all very different from one another? So, isn't it a necessity to learn to live together? And that is why I believe tolerance is crucial. Now, before everyone begins to think of tolerance as enduring and bearing people who just you cannot be with, it is the willingness to accept behaviors and beliefs that are different from your own, even though you may not agree with them or completely disapprove of them. And now, let me tell you a very short story that made me realize the importance of this thing. This happened with me last year in school with my friend. My friend and I were having a conversation. Not really. An argument. A very, very bad argument. That day she had of the opinion that people, that is our teachers, are the most supportive people that we can get in our lives. I was shocked. Seriously, you think teachers are the most supportive people? We have a bunch of friends who are the same age as us. She had two reasons to do this. Number one, teachers are the people who truly care for us, unlike those friends who decide to leave us. And number two, because these teachers have also been through an age who were teenagers back then, and hence they are more experienced and know what to do when we are in trouble. Then I decided to contradict her. No, that is not possible. People who are the same age as us, our friends, are the most supportive people. I also had two reasons to say such a thing. Number one, these are the people who I would be with in the future. These are the people who would be there with me in the future. And number two, who else could understand a teenager's mind better than another messy teenager? Going back home, her words kept repeating in my mind. And at one point, I started doubting our friendship. Is it possible to sustain a friendship when we are arguing every day? Is it sustainable for a friendship when we are all so different? Next day, I went to school and I decided to ask her the most obvious question that I had in my mind. Why do you think so? Why do you think so? Why is it that you believe teachers are the most supportive for you? And then she decided to share her experience of the past few years growing up when teachers and parents had been the most supportive to her, when her friends decided to betray her and never support her again. At this point, I realized that the reason why we had so many arguments, the reason why we faced so many problems and difficulties, and the reason why I started doubting our friendship was only because I was being intolerant. I couldn't accept that there was another way other than my way. Then, there is something more to tolerance than what catches the eye, in fact. Tolerance obviously opens up your mind to different perspectives, but there's something that I find interesting as well. That is, tolerance, the first part of tolerance is empathy. Let me explain this. When I started listening to her and went as far as questioning the reasons why she thought something like this and why she had such an opinion, I realized that I started understanding her perspective as well. I started understanding her feelings. I started understanding her perspective. And what else is empathy? Empathy is just being able to understand and share someone else's feelings. And who doesn't understand the importance of empathy? We live in a world where we are so disconnected even after being so connected. That brings me on to the next important element of tolerance. That is respect. When I started understanding her reasons for something, I started understanding and finding the uniqueness in her perspective. I started admiring, wow, there is something beyond what I think. there is something that is to learn. And I started respecting her. She earned respect from me. And regardless of where we all live, don't we all deserve respect? Don't we all want love and respect? Because there is a difference between survival and living after all. That brings me on to my last and the most important element, acceptance. When we start respecting others and admiring their opinions like I did, it wasn't very difficult to accept them as a part of my own life, as a part of my own society. It wasn't very difficult to think that they also are just like me. In fact, over a time, I started appreciating and feeling great about my friendship because it keeps on reminding me that even though we are very different, we share the same roots and live in the same society. We fight for human rights, we fight for animal rights, we fight so we can survive. But what if we be tolerant? So we no longer have to fight for such individual rights. I believe that when we are living in a world that preaches individuality and uniqueness, how are we supposed to achieve a world like this when we are so intolerant, when we cannot accept it? Thank you.